Good morning, Year 8. It's a shame that I'm not seeing you live today, but we've got a pre-recorded lesson and we're just going to revise what we did when I saw you last, and then I'm going to set you off with some independent work. Just revising what we know about quadrilaterals. Now remember, when we've got a parallelogram, I wonder if you can remember about the angles. I'm going to have opposite angles are equal. And if I know that opposite angles are equal, I also know another fact. Now, whenever I have a pair of parallel sides, I also know that the co-interior angles add up to 180 degrees. So that's quite an important property. So co-interior angles total 180 degrees. If I've got a rhombus, I've got a very similar fact because of course that is a parallelogram as well. I've got opposite angles are equal and the other pair of opposite angles are equal. But because a parallelogram has got pairs of parallel lines, well, if I draw a parallel line and connect them with another line, I can see that I have two co-interior angles that both add up to 180 degrees. That's going to help me a lot when I come to work out missing angles in quadrilaterals. Now, if we have a trapezium, one thing that is always true is that it has got one pair of parallel lines. And that means that in my trapezium, I must have co-interior angles, so A and B must add up to 180 degrees because they are inside that pair of parallel lines. So we have co-interior angles again, and I'm just going to write down what that means. It means they add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so A and B add up to 180 degrees. If I have an isosceles trapezium, I have that same fact, but I also have another fact to help me, and that is an isosceles triangle has a line of symmetry. So that can be a clue that I'm going to need today. That means opposite angles are equal. In a kite, if we can remember that line of symmetry really helps us realise that it has a pair of equal angles opposite that line of symmetry. So I'm going to set you off with some work today, and you'll find on Show My Homework there are two sheets, both of which you have to find the angles in quadrilaterals. The first one that says first steps is easier than the second one, so you might want to have a go at that one first. In fact, I recommend that you have a go at this one first, and then when you get good, you can go on to the one that says strengthen, because that is a lot more difficult. So let me go back to those first steps and let's take some example questions. And we're going to do these ones together. So here are my first three first steps questions. So why don't you try and work out the missing angles and press pause. And now I'm just going to go through them and you can see if you got the answers right. So we're going to check your knowledge. Okay, so I know that all my angles in any quadrilateral has got to be 360 degrees. And that's a really important fact. So that's the interior angles of a quadrilateral. So if I'm having a look at the first shape, all I've got to do is add 109, 83 and 115, and I can see they come to 307 degrees on my calculator. So I'm just going to grab a different colour pen. So for this question here, I'm going to do 360, take away 307 degrees, and I think that leaves me with 53 degrees. I'm looking at angle X there, that looks about right. I can't always tell the size of an angle from a diagram, but I can see that it looks about right. X should be an acute angle, and it looks like that my answer is correct. So I'd really encourage you to do the same. If you're expecting an obtuse angle and you get a small acute angle, please, please, please double check your work. Okay, the next one is a parallelogram. So I know that opposite angles are equal. So Y has to be 73 degrees. I also know that I've got co-interior angles in a parallelogram. So if I draw those parallel sides in and a line in between them, I know that 73 degrees add X must add up to 180 degrees. So I'm just going to subtract 73 from 180. If I do that, I get 107 degrees. When I look at my diagram, I'm looking for an obtuse angle for X. Z is going to be the same because it's opposite, and that looks about right to me. To double check, I could add up all four angles just to make sure they come to 360 degrees. Okay, now when I've got an isosceles triangle. No, I haven't. I've got an isosceles trapezium down at the bottom, which means that I have a line of symmetry. Therefore, I know that angle Z has also got to be 67 degrees. I don't like my choice of colour there. I'm going to use a red for those angles. And I know that X and Y are going to be the same as each other. There's a couple of different ways that I could work that out, but I would like to use co-interior angle knowledge because that's going to come in useful in the next topic that we're going to do as well. So I know that 67 add X is 180 degrees. So I'm going to find X by subtracting 67 from 180. And I think that's going to give me 113 degrees. I also think that's going to be the same for angle Y. Now, if you did not get those three right, you definitely need to work through all of the questions on the first step sheet. If you got all three of those correct, maybe choose another 6 on the page and then go on to the strengthened questions. Now the strengthened questions, as I said, look much more tricky. So we're going to take the first 3 in the first column and I'm going to work through those with you. I'd like all of you to just have a go at these now, please. Remember to press pause. Okay, thank you. So the first one, well, I'm going to add 109 and 78 and 55. And my answer comes to 242 degrees. If I add X, I should get 360 degrees. So I think I'm just going to subtract 242 from 360. And I get 118 degrees. I'm expecting an obtuse angle. That sounds about right to me. My next question, I've got a rhombus. Now a rhombus has 2 lines of symmetry. It's a very special parallelogram. It's also very similar to a kite. So it's got a line of symmetry down the middle like that. And I know therefore that Y has to be 123 degrees. The thing about my rhombus is that it's also got another line of symmetry down the middle there. So I do know that angle X and the angle opposite X has got to be the same. So there's a couple of ways that I could work this out. I could, if I wanted to, add 123 and 123 and get 246 degrees. And if I did 360, take away 246, I get 114 degrees. Now, I've got to split that between 2 angles. So I've got to divide that by 2, which is going to give me 57 degrees. So I think X is 57 degrees, and I think the one inside the quadrilateral opposite it is also going to be 57 degrees. However, angle Z, now I'm looking at angle Z there, and something that I had to keep reinforcing from your last piece of work on angles is that this is a reflex angle. And I know that angles around a point add up to 360 degrees. So to find angle Z, I'm going to do 360 degrees, subtract 57 degrees. And if I do that, I get 303 degrees. So Z was 303. I wonder if you got that one right. If you didn't, you might want to practice more with reflex angles. The last one is a kite. Now, kites have a line of symmetry down the middle. And that tells me that the angle up there and the other angle opposite it must be equal. However, I need to find out some more information before I can find those angles. Now, I do see that there's a reflex angle all the way around the outside of the vertex on the left-hand side. I think I might work out that first. So I'm going to work out this angle in here by doing 360 degrees, subtract 318 degrees, which is 42 degrees. Now, I've got two angles in my kite. I've got 42 and I've got 84 degrees. If I add those together, I get 126 degrees. For some reason my pen is lagging and it's very annoying. Now, because all of the angles in my quadrilateral total 360 degrees, I'm going to do 360 degrees, subtract 126 degrees, and that's going to tell me what's left, which is 234 degrees. I'm now going to split that between two angles that are the same. And if I do that, I'm going to get 100, and half of 34 is 17. So I think I'm going to get 117 degrees for each of those angles. So I hope that's helped you today. I would love to see your work, so please send me your work. I'd love it if you could do the strengthen questions. Simon, I know that your mum has put in a particular request for you to do the strengthen questions, as has Alfie and Eli's mums. I know that some of you will choose to do the strengthens, but please, if you want to do the strengthens, please do the first steps one first. Okay, I can't wait to see your work. Have a great day. Thanks very much.